They told you Gunther was untouchable. They told you the ring general was the most dominant force in WWE today. They built him up as a wall of fortress, a man who doesn't lose, doesn't bleed, and doesn't break. And for months, you believed it. We believed it. But last night on Raw, Seth Rollins looked that fortress dead in the eye and he burned it down. And the worst part? Nobody, not a single soul in that arena, not a single person in the back could do a single thing to stop it. If you're a Gunther fan right now, I need you to take a deep breath, because what I'm about to show you, what I'm about to break down for you second by second, it is going to make your blood boil. And if you're a Seth Rollins fan, oh, you are going to love every single second of this. Either way, you are not leaving this video early. Trust me on that. Stay right here, because this just changed everything. Segment 1, setting the scene. Let's go back to where this all started, because context is everything in professional wrestling, and if you don't understand the fuel behind this fire, you won't understand just how personal and how calculated Seth Rollins' attack on Gunther truly was. For weeks leading up to this moment, there had been a slow-building tension between these two men. Not the loud, screaming, in-your-face kind of tension, but the quiet, dangerous, simmering kind. The kind where two apex predators are circling each other, waiting, watching, calculating. Gunther had been making his position very clear. He is the standard. He is the measuring stick. He is the one every champion, every contender, every man in that locker room has to measure themselves against. And to Gunther's credit, he had earned that right. The man's resume speaks for itself. His dominance on Raw has been nothing short of historic. But Seth Rollins? Seth Rollins doesn't bow to anyone. Not to the Authority. Not to the Shield. Not to Triple H. Not to Roman Reigns at his most dominant. Seth Rollins has built his entire career on one simple philosophy: I am the visionary, and I see what nobody else can see. And what Seth saw when he looked at Gunther wasn't a wall. He didn't see a fortress. He didn't see an unbeatable champion. He saw a target. And last night on Raw, Seth Rollins proved that he was absolutely, 100% right. Segment 2, the attack breakdown. Now let's talk about exactly what happened, because the details here are crucial. This wasn't some random brawl. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment scuffle that spilled out of control. No, what Seth Rollins did to Gunther on Raw was surgical. It was deliberate. It was planned. And it was executed with the kind of cold, methodical precision that separates a good wrestler from a dangerous one. The night had been going relatively normally, as normal as Raw ever gets, anyway. Gunther had already made his presence felt earlier in the evening, cutting one of those trademark promos where he looks at the camera like he's genuinely disgusted by the existence of every single person watching at home. Classic Gunther. Commanding, arrogant, untouchable. And then the lights changed. That familiar entrance music hit. And the moment Seth Rollins walked through that curtain, the entire energy in the arena shifted. You could feel it. The crowd erupted. Because they knew that Seth Rollins doesn't show up just to talk. Seth Rollins shows up when he has a point to prove. And last night, Seth had a point that he needed to carve directly into Gunther's skull. What followed over the next several minutes was one of the most vicious, most calculated, most jaw-dropping attacks we have seen on Raw in a very long time. Seth didn't charge at Gunther wildly. He didn't throw haymakers and hope for the best. He picked his spots. He moved with purpose. And when the opportunity presented itself, Seth Rollins unleashed hell. The blow that changed everything, and I want to be very specific here because the replay made it unmistakably clear, connected with such devastating force that Gunther was immediately in trouble. And then the blood started. Now, in today's WWE, you don't see blood often. The company has worked very hard to minimize it. So when you see it, when the cameras catch it and the announce team goes quiet for just a split second before scrambling to react, you know something serious just happened. This wasn't a small cut. This wasn't a minor abrasion from a collision. Gunther was bleeding. Noticeably. The kind of bleeding that immediately changes the atmosphere in an arena, that makes the people sitting in the front rows lean forward, that makes the referee instinctively step in trying to assess the situation. And Seth Rollins stood over him, and he looked at him. That look. If you haven't watched the replay, go back and watch that look. Seth wasn't celebrating. He wasn't screaming at the crowd. He wasn't playing to the cameras. He was standing over Gunther, the most dominant man on Raw, and he was completely, terrifyingly calm. Like everything had gone exactly according to plan. Because it had. Segment 3, Gunther left helpless. Now here's where it gets really uncomfortable for the Gunther faithful. Because the part of this story that people are not talking about enough, the part that I think is the most significant detail of this entire incident, is not the attack itself. It's what happened after. Gunther couldn't respond. Let that sink in. The ring general. The man who has made careers out of dismantling opponents. The man who just months ago was carrying gold and looking like the most legitimate champion in WWE. That man was on the canvas, bleeding, and he could not mount a response. The officials came in. Medical personnel were nearby. And Gunther, proud, dominant, arrogant Gunther, was helpless. And do you know what makes that even more devastating? The crowd. Because that Raw crowd, the moment they processed what they were seeing, the reaction was electric. Not because fans necessarily wanted Gunther hurt, but because Seth Rollins just did what so many people thought was impossible. He cracked the armor. He found the chink. He made the untouchable man bleed. The power dynamic on Raw shifted in real time, right in front of our eyes. And once that happens, once an aura of invincibility is broken, it is almost impossible to rebuild. Ask anyone who's studied wrestling history. Once the blood is drawn, once the moment happens, the story is never quite the same again. Gunther knows this. And that might be the most terrifying thing of all for Gunther. Because Seth Rollins didn't just hurt him physically last night. Seth Rollins planted a seed of doubt. And in professional wrestling, doubt is the most destructive force in existence. Segment 4: Why Seth did this and what it means. So now the question everyone is asking, the question flooding the comment sections, the wrestling forums, the Twitter and X timelines right now is why? Why did Seth Rollins do this? What is the endgame here? And I'll tell you exactly what I think, and then I want you to tell me if you agree in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know what the Ring Rumble 1 community thinks about this. Seth Rollins is not a man who acts without reason. Everything he does has layers. There is always a story within the story with Seth. And I believe that what we witnessed last night was the opening chapter of what could be one of the most compelling feuds in WWE in 2024 and beyond. Seth has watched Gunther operate at the top of Raw's food chain, and he has decided consciously, deliberately, that it's time for that to end. Not because of personal animosity, necessarily, but because Seth Rollins genuinely believes that he is the best. And as long as Gunther is sitting at the throne, that claim is contested. This is about legacy. This is about supremacy. This is about two of the absolute best wrestlers in the world today, and I will die on that hill. Both Seth Rollins and Gunther are top 5 workers on the entire WWE roster right now, colliding in a feud that has the potential to be absolutely match of the year worthy. But beyond the in-ring implications, there is a real psychological warfare element to what Seth did last night. By attacking Gunther the way he did, drawing blood, leaving him helpless, doing it in front of a live audience and a global television audience, Seth has served notice. He's put Gunther in a position where the response has to be massive. Because if Gunther doesn't respond forcefully and decisively, it confirms what Seth showed the world, that Gunther can be broken. And that is a dangerous position for the ring general to be in. Segment 5: What comes next? Now let's talk about what happens from here, because this story is far from over. In fact, I'd argue last night was just the match being struck. The fire hasn't even really started yet. The next Raw is going to be absolutely critical. How does Gunther come back from this? Does he come out composed, controlled, using his words like the general he's supposed to be? Or does he come out furious, abandoning the calculated persona that has made him so dominant, and playing right into Seth Rollins' hands? Because Seth wants an emotional Gunther. An emotional Gunther is a sloppy Gunther. And a sloppy Gunther is a Gunther that Seth Rollins can beat. The booking decisions made in the next 2 to 3 weeks will tell us everything about where this is going. If WWE is smart, and honestly, they've shown they can be very smart when they let a story breathe, they will let this simmer. They will not rush to a match immediately. They will let the tension build, let Gunther stew, let Seth provoke, and let the audience invest emotionally in both sides of this conflict. Because here's what's fascinating about this particular feud: you can genuinely make an argument for both men. Seth Rollins delivered a vicious, unprovoked attack. There is no way around that. But Gunther has spent months being insufferably arrogant, dismissing everyone, acting as if the rest of the roster are beneath his regard. Did he deserve a wake-up call? Some people are going to say yes. And that moral ambiguity, that gray area, is exactly what makes great professional wrestling storytelling. I want to know where you stand. Drop it in the comments right now. Are you team Seth after last night, or do you think what he did was completely out of line and Gunther deserves revenge? Comment right now. I am going to reply to as many of you as I can, because I genuinely want to debate this with the Ring Rumble 1 community. Segment 6: The historical context. Let me give you some historical context here, because I think it elevates our appreciation of what we just witnessed. Great feuds in WWE history, the ones that define eras, that people talk about decades later, almost always have a moment. A singular, undeniable, this changes everything moment that serves as the ignition point. Stone Cold Steve Austin pouring cement into Vince McMahon's car. Edge spearing Mick Foley through a flaming table. CM Punk sitting cross-legged on the ramp and lighting the entire company on fire with a microphone. Sami Zayn turning on the Bloodline. These are moments. Moments that you remember exactly where you were when you saw them. Moments that fundamentally alter the landscape of WWE. Last night had the potential, the DNA, the bones of one of those moments. Seth Rollins making Gunther bleed, standing over him, calm and calculating, on global television. That image is going to live in wrestling highlight reels. And if WWE plays this right, the payoff match between these two men could be one for the history books. I'm talking WrestleMania level storytelling potential here. I'm talking match of the year conversation. I'm talking about the kind of feud that reminds casual fans why they used to be obsessed with WWE and pulls them back in. This has all of that potential sitting right in front of us right now. Closing/call to action. So here's where we are. Seth Rollins has drawn blood. Gunther has been left helpless on the canvas of Monday Night Raw, in front of the world, looking like anything but the ring general. The balance of power on the red brand has shifted, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, and a feud that could go down as one of the best in recent WWE memory has officially, undeniably begun. I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. If this video gave you everything you needed on this story, show me some love. Second, subscribe to Ring Rumble 1 if you haven't already, because I cover every single major WWE moment with the depth and passion that this kind of storytelling deserves. And third, and most importantly, drop a comment. Tell me, is Seth Rollins a genius or a villain after last night? Can Gunther recover from this? And where does this feud end, and does it end with gold on the line? I read every single comment. This channel is built on this community. And this story, Seth Rollins, Gunther, blood, chaos, and the future of Raw, is just getting started. Stay locked in. Ring Rumble 1. We don't miss a thing.